What is the best exercise to increase testosterone? Does cardio lower your testosterone levels? Do you need to lift heavy? What are the sets and reps you should be doing? How about intensity? Does that matter? I'm going to answer all of this, and I'm going to also give you evidence-based protocols on what the research is saying in terms of how to best train in order to increase your testosterone levels naturally. And if you want the full protocol on everything that I did to increase my testosterone levels by 400% completely naturally, you can get that full protocol in my free testosterone optimization course in the link in the description below. In this video, we're focusing on the training aspect of increasing testosterone, meaning we're talking about physical activity, exercise, the movement of your body, and how does this increase testosterone levels. And there's loads of research out there that look at physical activity and how using our muscles, exerting our bodies, being physically active can increase our testosterone levels naturally. Now, what's really interesting is when we compare the different types of body types and how they respond to, say, cardio, for example, because some research will show that cardio actually decreases testosterone, where other research will show that cardio actually increases testosterone. And if we dig deeper into the data of what these research articles, what these studies are studying, we find something very interesting. We can see that cardio impacts actually depend on the type of person that's doing the cardio. For example, in the case of an obese man, this man may have 25% body fat, excess body fat. He's lower testosterone. If he does cardio, we're going to see increases in his testosterone because that cardio activity is decreasing his body fat and it's allowing him to have a better body composition, which is favorable for testosterone levels. Where if, say, an average normal BMI or say slightly underweight man is doing cardio, we may see decreases in testosterone levels. Now, when it comes to exercising to increase testosterone levels, there's something important we want to note, and that if you're beginning from a baseline of being obese, being overweight, having excess body fat, the number one factor in you having low testosterone is most likely that your body composition is all out of whack. Meaning if you have excess body fat, you're going to have lower levels of testosterone. You're going to have higher levels of estrogen. You are likely to have erectile dysfunction. You're going to have decreased blood flow, an unfavorable hormone profile. Many of these things all stem back to the issue of being overweight, having excess body fat. So when it comes to using physical activity, using exercise to increase your testosterone levels, if you're in this case of being obese, overweight, excess body fat, the number one way that you can increase your testosterone levels naturally is by decreasing your body fat. So in this case, this is where some can make the argument for doing cardio, doing endurance training may be more favorable for you to increase your testosterone levels naturally. This isn't the case for everyone. There's so many different nuances. We could talk about steady state versus high intensity and comparing that to resistance training. We're not going to get into the weeds here. I just want to point out the elephant in the room that if you have excess body fat, if you're overweight, if you're obese, and you are just seeming like this is so complex, you don't know where to start, simply just start by walking, doing cardio, moving your body, getting a sweat on, decreasing your caloric intake, creating a deficit in how physically active you are and the food that you're consuming, the calories that you're getting in your body. If you create a caloric deficit and you're losing body fat, this is the number one way for you to increase your testosterone levels naturally. Now, if we look at the research comparing resistance training to cardio, we can see that clearly resistance training has a higher effect on increasing testosterone levels. Now, how long does this testosterone level increase last for? Hey, real quick, do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps to support the channel and push this content out to more men. And as you know, men, we need more help nowadays. So do your brothers a favor, push this content out, hit the subscribe, hit the like button, and let's get back to the video. Now, how long does this testosterone level increase last for? It may last from anywhere from maybe a couple hours up to 48 hours is what some of the data is saying. So if you're just doing one bout of resistance training once a week, the maximum you're going to get is possibly up to 48 hours of increased testosterone from that one bout of resistance training. If we're doing just one round of resistance training in a week, that's not going to be very much for keeping our testosterone levels high. We want to be doing multiple bouts a week. We want to be doing, I would say, 5 to 7 days a week. We want to be aware of how hard and how long we're training for. Because if you're training for 90 minutes, 2 hours, 3 hours, and you're doing it multiple times a day and you're not recovering, this is actually going to lower your testosterone levels. This is going to keep you in a state of stress. This is going to keep your cortisol levels high. Your sympathetic nervous system is going to be in overdrive. And when we're in that state of overdrive, sympathetic distress, if we're burning things out, we're pushing too hard and we're not recovering, our testosterone levels are actually going to go down. So we want to be sure that, yes, we're getting the right dose of our resistance training, and we're going to talk about that shortly. We want to be sure that we are getting the recovery aspect of things too, because it's not always sympathetic. We also want to have that balance of the parasympathetic and the sympathetic to come together. It's a whole system of equilibrium. We want to keep our system in a state where it's constantly working together, going through the natural cycles and rhythms of the day, the changes of our hormones, as testosterone's high in the morning and then it decreases and cortisol goes up to help us wake up. As the day goes on, then melatonin's released at nighttime, helps us to wind down. Growth hormones released in the night. There's these fluctuations where our hormones are constantly going up and down and working together in this sort of symbiotic relationship. This we want to support. We do our training. We want to be intense when we're training, and we actually want to be intense when we're resting too. So if you're training hard, if you're training aggressively, intensely, I would then consider prioritizing your recovery with the same intensity, being an intense sleeper, being aggressive in the way that you recover. This is something I don't hear people talk about, but it's something that you want to consider if you're going to be a high-performing man, optimizing your hormones, your physiology, the way that you operate and perform day to day. You're going to want to work with intensity. Like they say, work hard, play hard. And I would also extend that to say sleep hard and also eat hard. So we want to support our body with the right resistance training, with the right recovery. When it comes to the right type of resistance training we want to do, it's really important that we're choosing the right exercises, that we're choosing the right movements, because I see so many men going into the gym, wasting time, paddling around, playing with these little silly exercises, just wasting time with these single joint action movements. If we want to choose the right movements to get the biggest bang for our buck, and that type of movement is going to be focusing on compound movements that are using at least 2 joints at a time. And even better if we're using leg compound movements, such as the squats, the deadlifts, the lunges. When we're focusing on these movements that are including multiple muscle groups, and if we can focus on choosing the larger muscle groups, that's going to be what allows us to get the optimal release of testosterone. Because more muscle equals more capability to produce testosterone or to release testosterone. So if we're targeting our leg muscles and our glutes, our thighs, our hamstrings, if we're training these muscles, this gives us a higher amount of potential to activate more muscles, to activate more androgen release. This is all through choosing compound movements, multi-joint movements, and specifically focusing on prioritizing the leg movements, squats, deadlifts, lunges. When we can focus on these movements, this is going to let our body to release as much testosterone as possible. If, say, in contrast, you go to the gym, you're doing single arm tricep extensions on a cable, or you're doing just single arm bicep curls with a cable, one arm at a time, this isn't actually going to be working enough muscles, recruiting enough muscle fibers, and not exerting yourself enough to actually get the amount of testosterone increase that you might have gotten if you were focusing on more of the powerful movements, the core compound movements. In terms of intensity though, It's really important that when we are doing our resistance training, if we are focused on increasing testosterone, this comes down to exerting our bodies enough that we're hitting a specific threshold to cause our body to increase testosterone levels. Now, what is this specific intensity? We can measure this in a couple different ways. We have 3 ways. The first way is your percent 1 rep max, which is the maximum effort of doing 1 full repetition. We also have the rate of perceived exertion scale, which is a 0 to 10 scale. We call it the RPE scale. And then we also have what's called reps in reserve, which is kind of the opposite of the RPE, where, say, if I can do 8 out of 10 on the RPE scale, the reps in reserve would be how many repetitions are in the reserve bank after I've completed my set. If it's an RPE scale of 8 out of 10, my RIR scale is going to be a 2 out of 10. For the sake of simplicity, when training for testosterone, the research is suggesting that we want to be training with an intensity that is at least 80% of your 1 rep max or greater. This would be an 8 out of 10 on the RPE scale, or if you're using the reps in reserve, this is 2 reps in reserve. So in terms of training for testosterone, we want to have this level of intensity, this level of effort of doing at least 80% of our 1 rep max. If my 1 rep max on, say, a 200-pound bench press would be, say, 160 pounds. If, for example, say my squat 1 rep max is 500 pounds and 80% of that would be, what's math? I don't know, 400 pounds. So if I was going to do squats focusing on testosterone, I'm going to be wanting to use at least 400 pounds if my maximum for 1 rep is 500 pounds. That gets me at that 80% 1 rep max threshold, 8 RPE, 2 reps in reserve. Now, there's multiple studies out there that look at different sets and rep schemes, looking at intensities, looking at different weights, different exercises, and to really keep it as simple as possible, just consider here that we want to be working out with intensity. We want to be doing difficult exercises, exerting ourselves, doing multiple sets, multiple reps, and there's some really interesting research that's come out done by Duncan French, and he seemed to have found the optimal protocol for increasing testosterone through your training. He discussed this on the Dr. Andrew Huberman Labs podcast here in the last couple of years. I've listened to him on multiple other podcasts. He has multiple different publications out there. He's studied not only testosterone, but also human performance at a high level for many, many years. And in the study that he published that's getting a lot of attention, this looked at doing 6 sets of 10 with an 80% 1 rep max. In this study, they also looked at a 2-minute rest break between each set. So consider you're doing 6 sets of 10, say deadlift. Deadlift, 6 sets of 10, 2-minute rest break between each set, and doing at least 80% of their 1 rep max. In this study, if they found that the person had halfway through the 6 sets a difficulty achieving that full 10 reps, they would decrease the weight in the set so that they could still maintain the 6 sets of 10. Now, with this study, they found that this was optimal in terms of increasing your testosterone through your training. When it comes to the elevations of testosterone levels, this may keep testosterone levels elevated for a couple of hours after your training, up to 48 hours post-training session. So this is not a long-term change in testosterone levels that I'm talking about. This is more of acute changes that we're seeing within hours or a couple of days post-training session. So if we're doing this protocol of 6 sets of 10, 80% 1 rep max, and we're doing 2 minutes of rest between each set, we're doing this. This is our resistance training. But what if you have cardio as part of your training plan? How does this fit into your resistance training, and how is this going to affect your testosterone levels? Because if you're doing a very hard training session for 60 minutes, 90 minutes, and then you're going to do some intense cardio session after this, I would surmise that this is going to decrease your testosterone levels. If you've been elevated for too long, you're really driving your sympathetic nervous system, there's a point at which your cortisol is going to start to creep up, which is going to cause your testosterone levels to go down. So in terms of doing both your resistance training and your cardio, ideally we can do these at a separate time. But if you had to do these at one session, one bout, you're at the gym, you want to do it at the same time, you would want to do your resistance training before you do your cardio. Because if we find that if you do your cardio before your resistance training, that cardio before resistance training result in your testosterone levels being lower during your resistance training, which is suboptimal. This is not what we're looking for. So if you're in the case of doing resistance training and cardio, ideally separate sessions. If you have to do them in the same session, do your resistance training first, do your cardio afterwards. Now, although these studies are looking at the acute short-term increases in testosterone following exercise, we can still hypothesize that exercise applied consistently over time is going to increase your testosterone levels. And this is given as long as you're not starving yourself, you're underweight, burning yourself out. This is in the case that you are getting sufficient rest, that your body composition is within that Goldilocks, that normal range of not too much body fat, not too little body fat. If you're being consistent, you're training hard, that you're getting the rest, the recovery, you're getting the right nutrition, that you're working out intensely enough that you're hitting the threshold that your nervous system needs to upregulate your testosterone. If you do this consistently over time, it's pretty much inevitable that you're going to notice a trend in increasing testosterone. And yes, we know, looking at the data, that as men get older, we're noticing testosterone levels decrease after age 30, 35. They start to decrease faster. In modern day, because of our environment that we live in, the poison in our food, water, our lifestyles, we're seeing these decreases in testosterone more significantly and even faster. So you want to do everything that you can do to keep your testosterone levels high. And this means being consistent with your exercise, being consistent with your training, being consistent in the way that you're showing up every day and how you're moving, how you're eating, how you're sleeping. If you can do these things right, not only are you going to increase your testosterone, but you're going to help to fight off the effects that our environment's playing on our testosterone, fight off many of the negative effects of aging. Look around you, you can see so many men. The average person is now overweight, fat, gelatinous, obese, excess body fat. Don't be like these people. Be the guy that shows up consistently, willing to do hard things, exert himself, train intensely, recover intensely, eat intensely, show up in a way where you're performing at a high level mentally, physically, emotionally, hell, even spiritually. When you can show up being a grounded man with high testosterone levels, with an aesthetic physique that's attractive, that can communicate effectively with others in business deals, with other men, with women, you earn the respect of other men, you're highly sought after by women. Men look at you as the type of man they want to be. When you can show up day after day, do the right things, train hard, sleep hard, eat well, do these things, add the supplements, put in the work on yourself. These are the ways that not only will you increase your testosterone levels, but you're going to stand out from all the other average men that have low testosterone, that are undesirable by women, that are depressed, that aren't going to amount to anything, and that feel hopeless. This is the best way that you can become a high-level man, that you can become a high-value man that has value to offer the world, that can support a family, can be the rock, be the grounded man that people come to, that look at as an authority, as a man that can look at as a role model, as an example. This is what's possible when you optimize your hormones, when you optimize your aesthetics, your attraction, your authority in life. This is what's possible, guys. And this all comes back to prioritizing your health, having a strong mindset, being unperturbable, being grounded. This all comes back to becoming the best man that you can be. optimizing yourself holistically as a man, you become a lethal force to be reckoned with. You become dangerous. You become a threat to the modern society narrative that's trying to make men soft, weak, and effeminate. So men, grab your balls, get in the gym, exert yourself, work hard, get the free testosterone optimization course in the link in the description below. Hit the subscribe, hit the like, and I'll see you in the next video.